What's up, folks? Welcome to Aquarian Anarchy. And this week we're doing something a little bit different. First of all, you'll notice that my other co-host, Chad, is not here, but I got my buddy Nicco. And you'll have to bear with me. I'm not as good at this as Chad is, but I'm going to do my best. What we're doing this week is basically we are doing Ask Aquarian Anarchy Anything. And so we're going to be on here between anywhere from a half an hour to an hour. Before we get into that, though, I want to ask you to like, share, subscribe, go to our Patreon and subscribe there. Throw us a little bit of money. Get us $5 and you get into the Telegram chat, which is awesome. The reason that Chad's not here, just to kind of give everybody an update, is that his daughter is getting an award tonight. And as we've talked about 1,000 times, family comes first. And Chad's taking care of his family and doing that. And that's cool. But before we get too far into anything, how you been, Nicco?
Man, I've been alive. I can't complain. That's my favorite saying. Anybody asks me what's up with you, I'm alive. I can't complain. So it's like everything's a beautiful day. Actually, for the past 2 days, I've been getting up around like 4 something and just jetting straight to work because I get to take a little nap.
Wow.
But prior to that nap, I get to see the beautiful sunrise, and man, I fell in love. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing from now on. So I most definitely am trying to, and it's so serene. It's so serene and like calm. But that pay to parking is bullshit. You're not gonna catch me, Chicago. But other than that, man, I've been blessed. I've been grateful, and I've been alive. How about you? How have you been?
About the same. We've been working in our garden a lot, and I've been talking to people. I see Alchemy in our chat, and her and I had a nice chat this past weekend. Talked about Crowley and spirituality and a bunch of stuff. But that was a good time. I want to encourage her to ask any questions she wants in the chat, and that goes for anybody else. We'll try to get to as many questions as we possibly can. So tonight's just going to be the two of us. We're going to be discussing whatever comes to mind and any questions that you have for either one of us. Shoot, let us know, and we'll do what we can to answer that. And all right, starting to fill up that chat. So start asking those questions.
People, how you guys feeling today?
For sure.
Anything interesting pop up in you guys? This is day to day. Yesterday, one of my coworkers almost died. Fortunately, he's alive. I heard back that he has a shoulder injury. Long story short, something big fell on him, and so he had a shoulder injury and he hurt himself, but other than that, like he's being taken care of. So good. I'm grateful for not having any kind of real negative things happen. So yeah. But going back to Aleister Crowley, what was it's 777 or 666? Which one?
Well, he's got a book called 777, and he called himself the B666.
Okay, not the B666, but the book on 777. That is like basically his breakdown on how everything goes. In
sort of 777 is like largely, it's kind of like an encyclopedia of gematria, and it's like, if you want to know what in gematria is kind of the Kabbalistic or Hebraic breakdown of what words mean, largely what that is like in Hebrew, both and frankly in Greek too, there aren't separate symbols for numbers and letters. And the gematria gets into a lot of different stuff, but this is just kind of the basics. And basically in the Hebrew, there are numbers and letters, and those that are the same. They're not two characters. Like we have A and then we have one. They don't. They have Aleph, which is A and one. And so the idea is that if any word in several words add up the same, then they're basically the same. There's something that links them together. And so basically, 777 is his introduction to gematria, but it's a really good guide to being able to understand all of Crowley's his symbol set and those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So we've got our first. Go ahead.
No. I'm like, yeah. No, all I know is that man's confusing, and
For sure.
and like it's so funny. Like the people that we call like crazies are actual walking geniuses, and they just think outside the box so far that, I mean, granted, it's not what they produce and provide to you is absolutely like true and truths, but you can't like just conceive it and leave it as your one world, because there's so many possibilities of it actually being true in some kind of other parallel to you or things of that nature. So you have to always think outside of yourself while thinking about yourself.
Both at the same time. Right. Yeah. And and Crowley was actually quite good at those kinds of things, looking at both sides and finding those things. It's what made him kind of the genius that he was. But 777 is a difficult book to read, and largely it's kind of like reading the encyclopedia to a large extent. So I want to get to
attention span, so that's not gonna.
Right. Yeah. I would. That's not where I would start with Crowley, for sure. I do want to get to this question here. All right, or this comment. I'm going to try to get to these as they show up in the chat. And absolutely, I wrote an article that was on Junkcore last weekend. You can go to the blog on Twitter and find it, or you can scroll down my Twitter feed and find it. But it was called Cry for Freedom, and I talked about the atrocities that are going on in Israel right now. And largely what's going on is there is nothing short of genocide. If it were any country but Israel, they would be calling it genocide. They are wiping out people, men, women, and children. I think the last number I saw of the like killed in a day was like 200, and large portion. The statistic I had for my article was 40% are women and children. They targeted the AP and Al Jazeera, a building, and took it out. It is outright censorship of what they're doing, and the best picture I've seen in from Israel of what's going on is the picture of like the Palestinian rockets like shooting all over the place, and this barrage coming from Israel. It is not a fair fight, and not that any war ever is, but this one in particular, like I said, had it been anybody else, they would have called this genocide. And war is murder. At the end of the day, it is murder. It doesn't matter which state does it. It doesn't matter how it's done. That's what it is. War is murder. But Israel is particularly heinous at this because they have been putting down the Palestinians forever, for 50 years, 60 years. And then being like, why are you mad? You're living in poverty because we forced you to be in poverty. Why are you mad at us? And I don't advocate for violence. And I think that Hamas is an awful organization, and it is possible for two sides of any conflict to both be terrible. And that is the case here. But the bottom line is, in Israel right now, there are women and children being murdered by the state of Israel, and it needs to stop, and it needs to stop right now. Let me put this up here as well. Yes, China got called out, or China called the United States out, and they're not alone. And the Biden administration, who, to be blunt, sucks the dick of the Israeli and Chinese government, just suck the fuck out of them. Love a war. That Joe Biden is a warmongering asshole. Anyhow, but at the end of the day, they're pressuring Biden to do something. Biden's not going to do anything. He's doing exactly what his masters tell him to.
I would love to add on to that, but I think you spoke for both of us in that degree. I've only seen and kept up with the news to the degree of like certain drones dispensed to like try and deflect the rockets, and like some places like actually getting hit by the rockets and like blowing up, and I'm like, yeah, that's real fucking foul. And
Yeah.
at that rate, like I just wonder when like we all look around and realize it's like nobody up top likes us. Like it's not going to be a fair fight anywhere. So
Right.
I mean, I'm waiting for people to like really just like link arms. It's not difficult to link arms.
No.
Like yesterday after the guy injured himself, like my boss was like distraught, and
because he cared about his worker.
Mm-hmm. And so like there's sometimes problems in the workforce, but you know, it's how it goes. And he just like said he appreciated, you know, for us helping out and doing what we could. And I was like, yo, I don't know y'all, and I know things aren't the greatest, but if y'all need anything, I'll help out. Like that's the best way. Like I'll help send some money if needed, or help go to his house, collect some things. You know,
right.
It's real tough to
working as a community.
You know,
Yeah.
It's not happen. It doesn't happen as often as it needs to.
Sure. And largely because the state steps in and makes it more difficult. You know, they make it harder to just give somebody because they want their cut. And they want, when you're given $100 to a charity, they want to jump in and take, 70-80% of it and let you give them a 20 instead, and to do nothing. It'd be different if they added value, but they don't. And at the end of the day, that's what's going on all over the world. But again, what's going on in Israel is beyond the normal kind of heinous crap that we're involved in, and make it clear, this isn't the first ally that has attacked directly women and children. A few years ago, Saudi Arabia targeted a school bus. They proved it. Targeted a school bus full of children. And and this is all proven. You can look it up. The missile that they used to attack a school bus was made by an American factory. It was an American weapon that we sold them. Your tax dollars at work shooting children and impoverishing children in Yemen. That is what what happens when it's the state. Chad's commented in here. He said, y'all suck. Why didn't I get an invite? Motherfucker, you are always invited.
Moderators, can we please block any trolls that decide to come in our comments? Thank you.
Right.
Much love. Appreciate it. We'll send you guys some money for helping us out, okay?
Right. No, and I do want to say this show is not the same without Chad, and I realize that. Chad has added, so much.
Beyond.
Yeah. And so is Nicco. When you go back and look at my older stuff that I did, man, I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed doing it and I learned a lot. And, I did more article-based stuff back then. But it's not the same. It wasn't Aquarian Anarchy. Aquarian Anarchy had not been born yet. And it was conceived when Chad came along, and it was born when you came along. And that is really what it is. And I think that's
touching. I appreciate it. I appreciate that I can add true value to a show.
Sure. One of the things that I think that you bring is that spiritual tone, man. You have that. And I think Chad has more of the political tone, and I try to balance a bit.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, you're a nutcase in both of them. So it's like you have books and information on, like, I'm not gonna call you like Gandalf, but like you got some wizardry. So it's like that's pretty dope. But you most definitely know your history. Like, it's so interesting that people say, "Oh yeah, I know my history," and like I'm not a historian, so it's like can't quote you on some dates and things of that nature, but at the end of the day, I know history is a very, very big thing. And then some people just disregard it and shrug it off. And I'm like,
Right.
playing yourself, because you don't either. I mean, you could have reasons not to, but why not? The information's free and you learn something, you gain something. You know,
Sure.
when you read more books, you increase your lifespan. So read. Everybody
sure.
just read.
For sure. But at the same time, I think that a lot of experience comes into that too. And, and I'm not talking about, I'm 46 years old. Nicco, you're only, no, that's what I'm talking about. Because by the time I was 18, I had experiences that people hadn't had. I've had a really exciting life. Yeah. And, but, when we devote ourselves to truth, and that's what we, you, myself, and Chad have done with this show, is we're devoted to truth in whatever facet that comes, whether it's spiritual or whether it's politics or whether it's just talking about our families. At the end of the day, that's what we're devoted to. And when you're devoted to that, you stand out. You're different. The people that are in the chat right now, they're different. They're anarchs. They're people that, own themselves. They know they own themselves. They aren't going to let somebody else push them the fuck around. And hey, man, that's what the kind of community I want to build. And, one of the things that I think over the past year that's really happened, we're watching some of the fruits, and not just us. I'm not taking credit for this, and I also have to point to Chad as well. That Chad had an awful lot to do with this as well. But
hell yeah.
Yeah, but you watch the anarchist communities coming together. You watch the Mises Caucus growing and gathering people together, putting aside the left versus right bullshit in the Libertarian Party, coming together. You watch this community of freedom seekers in the Hoteps, in all of these different groups starting to move together because they realize that we have a common enemy. And I'm proud that we've been a part of that. Part of what has made that happen is doing things like introducing Scott Creighton to and other people did as well, but he was on our show, who tends to be on the left. We introduced him to people who might consider themselves anarchist or might be on the right. We brought people from the right, like, whether you're talking about Felicia Killings or any of the more recent guests we've had that are on the right, that are conservatives, and we introduce their voices. And that coming together and putting away the differences is absolutely how we get to freedom.
No, I actually absolutely 100% agree with that. And the beautiful thing about it is that we're maximizing our First Amendment right. And it's sad that like people are allowing it to go away, and then they just are like shrugging their shoulders. It's when you're told to do something too much, you just shut up and listen. Like that's just how it goes. And so with our voices, they may be small, but we're still growing. And then also on top of the guests that we bring multiple facets. And with all the different facets, it's not only learning and growth, it's like a family that you build. Mm-hmm. And then when you build that family, even though I'm not real close to my cousin, I'm still calling my cousin, Right. So I truly appreciate that we do get to dabble in different pockets, and mm-hmm. the voices that we bring on, like my family don't really watch it, but if they go back and like really pay attention to who mm-hmm. we bring on, they'd be like, oh, this little nigga's on some shit. But right. like until then, it's like they just think it's just some little thing that I'm just on. And I want this to grow, and I want to grow with you and with my man's Chad, and we can really create something that's absolutely beautiful, and not just us, the people that we bring on and the people in our chat. It's when you have a family and the bond is tight, there's absolutely nothing that can really get to you.
For sure. And one of the things too is like we've made friends with people from the, like, for instance, the Brown Paper Bag podcast. We've made friends with Jonesy, with the Hotep Nation, with with Adam Kokesh, who was already my friend, but he's become, friends with you, and he was already friends with Chad as well. And start, building those alliances. And these are all people that also have shows. So let's say that, hopefully it doesn't happen, but let's say a year from now, they shut down Aquarian Anarchy. Well, our voices can be that's going to get covered. It's going to get covered by, every group that we've helped along the way, everybody that we have lifted up their voices and said, hey, y'all should listen to these people because they have some shit to say. And that not only does that offer us protection, that offers them protection, because the first thing that we did when the Brown Paper Bag podcast got taken off was reach out to them, say, hey, come on here, we want to talk about that shit. And look at what they're doing. They're building Libre TV, and that's a whole new platform for people to check out. And we don't know where we're going to go in the future, but I'm really hopeful. I'm hopeful. And, we talk a lot about politics on here, but one of the things I think unites you, myself, and Chad the most is our love of God too. And I think that, that ability to connect, even though we might believe slightly different, that ability to connect on a religious level as well with people, man, that stuff's untouchable.
Yeah, when you are able to, because at the end of the day, when you have something that's over you, that you just understand, you love it, and there's somebody else it's like smoking a joint with somebody you've never met before and then becoming friends with them later. It's something that's connecting us, and we don't question it. We come to terms of our differences because we have to only accept there's nothing but differences. It'd be boring as hell if Chad agreed with everything that I said about my religion and my belief. I don't have a religion, but my beliefs and things of that nature, or yours, or you come challenge me. It's not, and we don't do it in a way where it's like, okay, come on, prove me, idiot. No, we do it in a way of, please teach me your thoughts so that therefore I can grow with mine and see things in a different light. But I'm having like a hard time with like people and trying to like see if they perceive things. Yeah, because I most definitely sometimes just go way too deep for people, and I'd be like, "Oh shit, my bad. Let me pull it back a little bit."
Yeah,
and it's something that like speech and being vocal about things. That's what draws us together as well.
Sure.
It's the rhetoric that we speak. It's the ideology that we just like all congruently understand as in one. Like, and that therefore is God. So it all trickles down to one thing. So
I get what you're saying though, and Alchemy's correct. She says sometimes you take people down. Here you go. Went a little too far down the rabbit hole. Yeah, that happens. It's funny. My ex-wife and I talk a lot about my wife that I'm married to now, who is amazing. Amber is the best thing that's ever happened to me. But my ex-wife, who was not, she said to me once, somebody asked a question, and I like to explain myself. It's just who I am, and that tends to make me pretty long-winded. So they asked me some question, and I went on for 10 minutes about, the beginnings and ends of whatever the hell it was that they asked about. And she looked at me and she said, Mark, they wanted yes or no. They wanted, the answer yes or no. Is this the way it is? And the reality is most things don't work that way. When somebody says, what is God? You can't go, he's a thing. You don't know. You gotta,
there's too much rhetoric behind it. There's way too much rhetoric behind the thought of God, because, and it's so like agitating that like, if we even put gods into terms, my bad for rocking the boat. If we put gods in the term of like really like trying to conceive it, which is absolutely astronomically and physically impossible, but you can't just, and this goes back to history, you can't just leave it at, okay, well, I'm only taught this, so I'm going to just take this. It's like, why doesn't your brain question like, well, are there more? Like, could there be true other like real gods in my perception, or like, can this like really be something that I can attribute to in my daily life? If you go and look at all the other practices of any form of worship of any god figure, majority of them, well, I can't say majority, I don't know, but the ones that I know of for a fact are all just being a good person and like, you know, showing the proper praise. That's all, being grateful.
Right. Yeah. Jonesy just joined us. I hope he saw me in the chat earlier. And
God is love.
When he was on the show with the Purple Pill podcast, that was fire. They were talking about Malcolm X. That was good stuff. If you guys, after this show's over, definitely go check out the Purple Pill podcast from today. I only got to catch about the first half of it because I needed to get ready for this show, but it was really good. And I enjoyed it. And, you know, and from being a old white guy, you know, I'm really moved by Malcolm X as well. I think that he had a lot of beautiful things to say. And I think the reason that they killed him was because, and I'm talking about the government, because the government killed him. And that, I don't know how anybody argues that point now. I just really don't. They've all but proved it.
I mean, look at what we're arguing now to make sense. So.
Right. Sure. But they killed him because I think he was on his journey to becoming an anarchist. And that would have been really difficult.
Most definitely shook some boots. That most definitely would have been something that would have actually really like propelled the Black community.
Yeah.
And
given power.
Yeah. Like the ideology of, oh, so I don't really got to do all these things that the government want me to do. Like you do, but like being your own man and taking hold of what is yours, and not just man, woman, being your own person, your own individual, and not being confined by what school has told you, what your parents went to school just to tell you and things of that nature. You're much more than that. You grew out of a shell.
Sure. The reason I put gratitude on here from Alchemy is, you know, one of the things, no matter what we're talking about, gratitude's important. And I have a spiritual teacher. His name is Lou Martinet. He's a New Orleans voodoo practitioner and great guy. And he explained, when asked what voodoo means to him, he said what voodoo means to him is gratitude. It's being able to say thank you to the world, being able to say, you know, I appreciate what came before me. You know, he says that, you know, when you look down at the ground that you're walking on, that is your mother, that is your father, because really reality wise, we break down into dirt. Our bodies become dirt. And then we have to be thankful for all of those things. It's one of the reasons why this week, and I think I'm going to make a habit of this, doing this pretty frequently. One of the things that I'm going to do is this week I made a post on Twitter, nothing big, but where I thanked Adam Kokesh for all that he's done for me, because he's done a lot for me. And, you know, my political path, if you will, was connected to him much greater in the past than it is currently. I still help him out here and there, but it was, you know, more connected to him in the past, and he helped me a lot. And he deserves my gratitude. He deserves me saying thank you. And he's been shit on by so many people that, you know, they feel like that to get their own legs, they've got to shit on him for a while to you know, establish their own, you know, identity. And I don't have to do that. I don't have to shit on Adam to appreciate, and there are differences between he and I, not many, but a few. So I think I'm going to make a habit of that. About once a week, I'm going to reach out to somebody that's influenced me, whether it's spiritual or political, and just say thank you. Just say, I appreciate you within, whether it's a spiritual community or it's, and more of it's going to be political, and just say, you know what, thank you. And because so often we miss that step in building community. We miss that step in finding love, because it matters. I mean, how many times do you like to hear thank you? To
be honest, I do like being told thank you, but at the end of the day, it's not something that I crave. Like it's like a balanced thing where it's like, you don't have to thank me for this. I just want to do it for you. I just want to help you out. Like I help out more people than I should help than myself. So I most definitely spread myself too thin sometimes. But at the end of the day, it just puts a smile on my face to see other people happy. Like seeing other people happy, seeing my grandmother happy or my little brothers like with their big cheesy old smiles, like it puts a little fire in my belly and a warmth my heart, a beat to the drum. So it's but I have so much family. I have to get into the habit of texting. I hate my phone. I hate phones. Like it's not face to face. I want a genuine conversation, and like we were saying earlier, I need a genuine, and like, I'm not saying this isn't genuine, but man, like I would like to embrace the energy around me. Having a conversation while you record it face to face, we would not cut it at like 32 minutes. Right. I would tell you that now. It's something very different when you like you said, get the expression, the body notion, something around the room, makes you think of something else, and or it's a whole different vibe when you are in the presence of somebody opposed to texting or anything of that nature.
For sure. Yeah, and man, we won't ever be able to shut the hell up if we ever get, like, especially just the three of us, but if we could get other people, like if we could get Daryl there, we could get Alchemy there, get Natasha there, get all of these wonderful anarchs in the chat there, get them all there. Oh my God, we'd never shut the fuck up.
Just have a panel. Just have a panel and like a little GoPro around on like a fan, just catching everybody in that circle. So that would be dope. Actually, why not? Like, why not? I mean, granted, things are getting kind of rocky with this this currency, this fiat. But that would be real dope, having like a studio and having people come over, the live guests. It would be so much, like I said, like a chummy atmosphere. It'd be something that would really warm the belly every guest we get. And I'm not saying every guest we get doesn't warm the belly, but to a degree or to an extent, it's only so much. Yeah, it's only so much. So that's my hate on phones.
Yeah, for sure. Amber and I's got a dream about owning land. One of the things that if Bitcoin ever takes off and goes crazy, somebody said buy the look at here. Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I was about to say. She's psychic. But if Bitcoin ever does totally just go off the charts, and because I've got a fair amount of Bitcoin, if it ever does, we're going to turn that Bitcoin into land. And what we're going to do, what we've discussed doing is building almost like a hotel out in the middle of the woods where there's like 10 rooms. Yeah, where there's 10 rooms. Now everybody could camp, but we'd have like 10 rooms that we could rent out and have like a Anarch Fest. How fun would that be to have maybe invite, like, can you imagine the party we would have with us, fucking Hotep Jesus, have Uncle Hotep, have Adam Kokesh there, have Dan Berman, the
Have
taxation
our
stuff.
own black party, or you can't call it a black party. That's racist. Have our own like little get together. That would be dope.
Yeah.
Question though.
Mm-hmm.
Once you do it, because talking it into fruition is love, can I have a rhinoceros there?
I don't know about a rhinoceros, dude. Rhinoceros might be a little bit too much to ask, tear my shit up and shit all over the place. I don't know about a rhinoceros.
A baby rhinoceros. Those don't do too much.
I don't know, man. Wild animals need to be left wild. But a horse might be good.
I mean, they're wild, but I feel you. Nah, I would love to ride. Actually, my mom's has a friend, and she's getting a horse at a stable. I would really love to have and own a horse, but I hate the term owning like a pet. I've always disliked it. Like,
I feel you.
It's icky, but I call my cat my homie. Like, that's my homie. That's the homie.
Yeah, we've got a cat ourselves, and that thing's a baby. She is pandered to. I can't tell you how much she takes care of that. My wife just adores that cat. Her name's Luna, and she is just all that in a bag of chips. And but yeah, it'd be great. I agree with you about the pets thing. I mean, because ultimately, just because we haven't figured out their language doesn't mean that they're dumber than we are. I think we egotistically make an awful lot of assumptions that just aren't there. And I've seen lots of proof that lots of animals got awareness.
Man, I've seen some really wicked articles about some dolphins and what they be doing. They know what they be doing. So you can't tell me other species. Like, I genuinely believe that like they're aliens or like
something.
It's just like it's something that's just completely unnatural because like we're so separate from them.
To me, I think we're unnatural.
Yeah, but that's the thing though. Like there's the unnaturalness of how they live upon this earth opposed to how we live upon this earth. And how they basically just really can coincide and coexist. I mean, granted, we can fine-tune our bodies, but without no torch lamp and some metal, we'd be screwed. Yeah, we'd be real screwed.
For sure. But I watched there's something on Netflix, like, I don't know, it's probably like 5 years ago that talked about plants. And like plants go to war. They attack each other. Like, it was it was on Netflix. Yeah. Well, what it is like a mother, for instance, and there's positive things too, but like there will be one set of plants that'll be against another set of plants, and they'll like invade and try to take over the other one, and they go to war. They attack. And
how long is that process?
Long. That's the deal. That with plants, it's really slow. They're living in a different time frame than we are. They're moving very, very slow, and so that doesn't mean they're not cognizant of what's going on. A mother tree will send nutrients through the ground to her children. It's been proven. It was in that show, and the world is one big organism, and we each have different jobs, and we're fucking our job all up because I think our job's kind of as the keeper. We're supposed to kind of hang on to shit.
I'm Bennett. I ain't in it. I was just brought here, and all of a sudden I have a lot of shit to do. So I'm just here for the ride. I'm just here for the ride.
Right. Yeah. Well, for me, I guess I want to make a positive change. I want to see us as a society. And again, I'm not going to force shit. I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in force, but I want to encourage people to start thinking holistically about the planet, thinking holistically about each other. Our interactions with each other should be a conscious effort. The reason that, like, for instance, people or people on animals or people on other entities, whatever, plants, whatever, the reason we cause harm often is just out of ignorance and out of lack of communication. Yeah, lack of communication. And, who thinks that kicking a dog is a good idea? That's just ignorance. So go ahead.
No. I just believe it's the ultimate, like, integration of so much violence on a day to day, and like you realizing, okay, well, there's two ways to shut this dog up: either take it outside or kick it, or go get it food. Once you past a certain limit, or if you have a short fuse, anger is like one of the most interesting emotions because it can wipe all sense of, like, logic and everything out the door.
Sure. Most emotions.
Emotions do that just in general. But anger is just one of the ones that you most likely will have regret at the end.
Right. For sure.
So it's pros and cons and polarity, however you want to play it.
For sure. And I think anger comes with a lot of that kind of, need for like feeling bad. I mean, when have you ever been angry and either took action or said some shit and you didn't go, well, fuck, I done fucked up. And anger, you're right. Anger is one of those that you just, it always evokes something negative. And I'm not saying that anger can't be used positively. It certainly can.
But that's the thing. It can be used positively, but anger, I wouldn't say is pointless. You need some form of aggression sometimes. Yeah, facts.
I disagree. Don't need aggression. You need anger is different than aggression.
What about passion?
Passion? I'll use passion. Passion's good.
But it's how you proceed with your passion, I guess, and how you can move through the grooves of, okay, well, I mean, I just don't necessarily see anger being something that's needed. Like you said, sure. Love is peace and is God. We can all reach God at one point. Mm-hmm. But with humanity and like a polarity, it's just there's always going to be a predator to a prey kind of situation.
True, but at the same time, as much as that the predator prey thing is a real thing, we're supposed to be evolved. We're supposed to be bigger than that, and. I think that, though I do think that anger can, I mean, from my experience, anger has been helpful here and there. It made me mad because I didn't do something right. So I tried real fucking hard and I did it better the next time. And so that anger could be constructive. But when you start taking that anger out on other people, that's when the problem comes in. And for me, I think the world would just be a better place if the number one emotion that we would share with the world beyond, because I talk a lot about love, is compassion. You can't love everybody. You can't love, I'm never, the bottom line is I'm never going to love Joe Biden. It's just never going to happen. He's a slave master. I'm not going to love that dude. But I can have compassion for him when he gets old. Oh, wait a minute, he's already there. When he gets old and senile, like yesterday, I can have compassion.
Being able to see both sides, it's being able to see both sides. Like, yeah, you were probably fucked up in the head by your parents, and it's all a whole circus ring. But at the end of the day, you see, he's being controlled. So like ain't shit he can really do. I mean, granted, he ain't helping nobody. He really ain't helping nobody at this point in time, except for himself and his bank account and his people. And nah, I ain't going there. But
yeah, you have a very good point. That's a place that we can feel sorry for Joe Biden, is that he is so controlled, and he has spent his entire life trying to be president of the United States. That's what he's been doing forever. since like, at least the 70s. He's been trying to be president of the United States. So he's finally there. And he then, this dude barely can string 3 words together.
That's
so
tough.
you gotta, yeah, man, that sucks for him.
I think that's not finishing. Like, he didn't finish the race. Like, he like stopped before and was like, damn, what am I racing for again?
Right, exactly. He's like, but I liked America First. America First. I mean, this dude.
It's a massive contradiction that, like, at one point, like, black people kind of knew. Like they knew. I'm not gonna say old, but as experienced as some people, where they've had, like, they were there, they were present when Joe Biden wrote certain bills in their lifetime. So they had a way of, like, perceiving him, and then they go back to being like, oh, well, we like him better than Trump, but these gas prices kicking my ass.
Right.
And it's like, our economy is so, like, depressing now. And if you didn't see that it was a little bit better under the orange guy that y'all really hated, then y'all are just really, really stuck. And I mean,
Nico, you're right. And I didn't like Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. I didn't do anything but I gotta say, I realize that the difference is a turd and a turd with corn in it, and Trump's the turd with corn in it because it's got a little bit of nutritional value. I get that, but you're right. He was not as bad as Biden is becoming to be. And the answer to why all of this shit is going down is simple. It's propaganda. I'm doing an article right now. My next article for Chad and for John Core is going to be on propaganda. And I've got my first draft done now. And oh my God, the amount of propaganda they levy through Joe Biden right now is astronomical.
Disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, this dude, his entire political career has been one war after another war after another war after another war, just voting all kinds. He never saw a war he didn't love. But yet, if you ask the media, he is the harbinger of peace. And and that is the biggest load of shit that they're trying to feed the American people I've ever seen in my life.
They're taking it. Look, he was the guy that, I mean, because, all the other people that, Americans wanted, they didn't turn out because we already know how this shit goes. And it's just a pendulum swinging, and people just get caught in it. They don't pay attention to, like, hold on, wait, I can step back and realize, like, this is a whole rocking motion. But it's besides the propaganda, it's all about what we do as, like, a community, as, like, a whole, as a society. Do we inflate it, or do we just, like, try and take it down? Now, trying to deflate it then causes censorship. So you kind of screwed the pooch on that until you keep speaking up, and then you get banned, like our good old former president. Like, that's kind of sick. Like,
off Twitter.
Nobody noticed that. Yeah, like, if you don't notice, like, the most powerful man, quote unquote, gets banned from Twitter, like, you're not safe. This, like, it's really not safe. And my father was like, he was inciting violence, and I'm like, alrighty then, I'm not gonna argue with you, because it's like, you can't keep trying to, like, push the rhetoric of, like, okay, can we steer down this? I think I've swayed him against the vaccine, but I don't know if he might get it. He might, like, genuinely go get it and be behind my back. And I'm like, you know what? I've tried. You
can only do what you can do.
And I actually was, like, really, really angry one day at work because I realized my mom got both of them. And I told her, like, yeah, she's good. Her husband had a little bit of difficulties at first, but I believe they're better. But it made me, like, genuinely angry. I was frustrated and pissed because it's like, how can I, like, try and go help and heal and save people if I can't even save my people. But then I have to step back and be like, well, every superhero doesn't save everybody. I have to realize it don't happen like that. It's not always going to be a fairy tale story. So you always have to keep your chin up and just keep moving. But,
well, it's like kind of like what Sonny said a couple weeks ago. Sonny Johnson, she said we will never know the impact that we have on people, and I think there's a lot of truth in that. You know, I think that at least, particularly in the Hotep community, but in other communities as well that we've touched with this show, we will never know that we have lightened people's minds when it comes to real freedom, that we have done those kinds of things. You never know, Nicco, that something you said didn't impact somebody and make them rethink trusting the government, which is what it means when you get a vaccine, is that you have trusted the government, and because they're the ones putting this out, and maybe you inadvertently save somebody's life. You don't know that, and you never will know that. And all we can do is be the best people that we can be. We can stay true to ourselves and true to the people that we know, and share love, be positive, and just speak from our hearts. And if we do that, then people are going to be receptive to that. People are going to understand that we're doing the best we can. And yes, you know what? My dad, I love my dad. I grew up in a house that was challenging because of my dad. My mom was amazing. My dad was an asshole. And my dad to this day is racist. He is, you wouldn't like, because I'm not those things. I'm not bigoted. I'm not racist. I don't hate people. I don't
have known.
Yeah. You would have never known that my dad is a shit. And I'll never save him. He will never know because he won't listen. He will not listen to me because I'm just that kid, to him. I'm just that kid that stood up to him when I was 16 years old and told him to go fuck himself, and he's never forgiven me for it since. I was the press secretary for the third largest for somebody running for the president for the third largest party in the country, and my dad never read anything that I wrote. I wrote over 50 articles on freedom. He never read a one. He wasn't even interested in reading one. So I will never be able to save my dad. I'll never be able to convince him what is real freedom. I won't.
Sure.
But you know what? I'm sitting next to somebody who I've made an impact on right now. I've made an impact in your life. You think differently because of our year-long friendship that we've had thus far. And you're 22 years old still?
Yeah.
You're 22 years old, and you're going to impact people. People want to make it out to be that we've got to, save 1 million people. We don't. Aim for 2. Aim for 2 people. Because if you aim for 2 people and get 2 people, they aim for 2 people. Right. Right. And so, no, you can't. You will never convince somebody by pounding the truth into their head. That's never going to happen. They have to come to this on their own. And so don't beat yourself up if your dad does get it. If he does get that shot, don't beat yourself up. You did what you could. For Amber and I, we have faced very similar things in our family. Now we've been, I think we've got Amber's dad convinced to not get the shot, and that's good. But who knows how many people in our immediate family are going to be impacted by getting that.
Yeah. Going back to what you said about your pops and being that kid, what I try and instill into my dad, and not just my dad, and I've recognized this amongst adults, is that they're a part of a generation to basically feel as if they should know everything.
Yeah.
And when being told something differently by a different viewpoint, it being challenged when a younger one says something to a hierarchy. You're just, you're just a pheasant or a peasant in their eyes, in some sort, like not peasant, but like you're ignorant. You couldn't know more than me. And
Yeah.
so I try and, like, for example, when my brothers had to do online learning, he was getting super frustrated that they're all failing. I'm like, whoa, don't get mad at the kids. Take into consideration of what they're saying. And what they're saying is that it's not the same. You got me staring at a computer screen for 8 hours straight. And not only on top of that, your teachers give you like an hour, 2 hours worth of homework. And so therefore I'm still sitting at a computer screen, and I'm not getting any form of life experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so some kids have to deal with their parents not even being there. So then they're basically on their own trying to raise, and then they can't even do it. you know?
Yeah.
And so I told my dad, like, take in consideration, they're not getting possibly the tutoring they could get. Their friends could have broke it down to them in a better way.
Yeah.
And they're just like sick and tired of being cooped up in the house trying to like sit down and learn. Who wants to do that?
I wouldn't be able to.
And like being forced to like stay in one position in a seat for 8 hours, and oh well, you go get your lunch break and this, that, and the third. Nah, that's not living.
Right.
That's like more of an industrialized form of indoctrination than the school that I went to.
Sure. And all you can do, it really is just learn from your father's mistake. As an example, I feel bad for my kids sometimes because, come on, I'm their dad and I'm an intense dude. And I know that, imagine being my kid, dad's off doing voodoo, and then tomorrow he's going to go try to save the world from violence and all, so my kids do face an awful lot. But one of my best friends, truthfully, my best friends, my best friend is my wife, but my best friends are my kids, and I don't think that I treat them perfectly. I don't, I make mistakes. And again, part of that is because I have a pretty big personality, and that's hard to deal with. But I don't think that I treat my kids like they're beneath me. I don't treat my kids and I understand that they're different than me. And so, one of the things that you can do is learn from your dad. Maybe that's the reason that he was your dad, is so that you could correct that, that way of being. That's what I've tried to do in my life is, it's funny, most people, that are both of my parents smoked cigarettes, smoked tobacco, and I'd never smoked a cigarette in my life ever. And I've smoked cigars, but I've never smoked cigarettes, and I've only smoked cigars for spiritual purposes. But I don't smoke, and I made a decision that I'm not going to be like my parents, and I love my parents, and I love my mom particularly, who was the worst of the two with smoking. But I made a decision not to be like that. And right. I've spent a lot of my life, and to be clear, my parents have good things too. To go to the opposite side, my dad is a historian when it comes to World War II. He knows a shit ton about that stuff. That's where I get that. Yeah, that's where I get that love of history. And so there are positive things, and I kept that. I went, oh, that's a good trait. Let's keep that. Yeah, I want that part of me.
No, I think that's another thing. Sorry to cut you off.
That's okay.
Ties us together as history. I mean, I came based off a spiritual thing, but I most definitely talked about the history of it. History is something that you can't shy away from, and nobody knows the true origins of history. But being able to go back and try and rekindle something that was in the past and get an understanding and a grip on it is always great for a thought, not just a thought, but personal growth. It's something that you can attribute to yourself. Nobody really takes in consideration that history is a big history. It's a big lesson. It's a big lesson.
Sure.
And so, with that being said, the lesson is don't trust the government because they brought in Nazi scientists as NASA, and you still
Operation
trust the
Paperclip.
government. Exactly.
Right.
They've been clipping for a minute, and y'all still trust them. God dang it, people! Not y'all. I believe the people in the chat. They're smart.
Right.
But
For
just
sure.
in general,
And at the end of the, for sure. And you know, to your point of history, it's funny, you know, as my I guess political involvement and evolution has come about. One of the things that I think actually added to my my political development the most, truthfully, was I had already been interested in history in general, but you know, about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago at this point, but Adam, I had written an article. Adam got arrested again, and was yeah, and so I worked for his campaign, and we were freaking the fuck out because he's in jail, and like literally the day he announced his that he was running for president, boom, he's in jail, and that was that was a day from hell. But I wrote some things about some historical figures, and Adam said, "Oh, you know what? That I really liked that article you wrote because it included some stuff about a couple of historical figures, Ethan Allen and Thomas Young." And he was like, "I really liked those. Could you write a series on historical freedom fighters?" And I knew, like, at the time that, you know, that we're not just normal, you know, like George Washington and shit like that. I knew like 5, you know, so I didn't know shit. And I was like, sure, yeah, I can write it, sure. So I had to do a bunch of research, and I think that through doing that, doing that research, and we're talking months and months and months, I put in like 1 to 2 articles on history out a week for like a year. It was so.
Yeah, that's a lot of research. That's
right. You know, I read a lot, and at the end of the day, I really do think studying freedom fighters and being able to, you know, put what they learned together, you know,
using their tactics and thought processes.
Right. Yeah, I learned a shit ton about, you know, philosophical and active freedom fighting, you know, and of course I have my favorites, but I learned a lot, and I learned how to, you know, kind of combine those, you know, whether I'm looking at, you know, Muhammad Ali, which was one of the articles I did, and his ability to stand up to, you know, losing. He lost. Most people don't realize this, but he lost everything because he stood against war. He stood up and said, "No, you know, I'm not going to war. Fuck your war." Is basically what he said, and you know, he said, "I'm not going to go over and kill, you know, brown people for this white government," is pretty much what he said. And this was during Vietnam. And, you know, you mix that with the economics of Murray Rothbard, and you mix that with the, you know, the fucking cojones of people like Red Cloud or Geronimo. And that's a hell of a mix. Yeah. And so, you know, history really did teach me a lot in my development spiritually as well. And so, because at this point for me, where my anarchism and my my spirituality separate is different day to day, you know, but yeah. So I really think, Nicco, that one of the things that your generation is doing right now, talking about your dad and talking about, is you've got a bit of that rebellion. And then a lot of people they don't see it. They're like, oh, they're just on their tablets and they're doing blah, blah, blah. And there's some truth to that. We're not talking about, you know, a percentage that is over 50% yet. But I think that the proclivity of your generation to question authority is growing. And and so that I think that we can find hope in that.
I always blamed my Haitian side to that, but, you know, because of the internet, it being able to show a lot more people and how they've move as a person in this society, yeah, we're rebellious as shit. And I
Good.
think that, with time and with a few bumps here and there, because we are the up and coming, and I feel old as shit. I'm way too young to feel this old. But I believe that with that questioning nature, um, and being possibly one of the very few last generations to have common sense, uh, because once you get down the pipeline, they're they're being remolded. Kids are being remolded nowadays. So I think we have to really shine a light on the positive rebellious kids and things
For
of that
sure.
nature.
Yeah,
Um,
and to Timothy's point, yes, I am a hoot, but that rebellious nature is always, like Nico's talking, has always been a part of who I am as well. I think I'm a little behind my age. I should be Nico's age right now.
I don't blame you. I wish things would slow down. Like, I don't know why, but certain days like just I feel like a whiz on by. And actually, there's this like just a few days ago, um I putting this into perspective like really blows my mind, is that there were like 39 volcanoes that erupted in a like recently in
Wow.
the entire world, and there were like 3 tornadoes that touched down in the United States or something
Hmm.
like that. And I'm like, holy shit! Like, it makes me feel a lot smaller, and like I feel like I know a lot, but I don't know a lot about like out there. I don't know shit. And that's something that I always gotta keep coming to terms with. It's like, Nick, you have to keep growing and learning. You don't know nothing. You legit don't know nothing. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I would
mean, I know
disagree with that.
some
You got
things.
some shit, dude.
I
For
mean,
your age, man, I'm telling you, man, I probably won't be around by the time you're my age, but when you are my age, I look forward to seeing what you've blossomed into
I'm gonna
because,
just wish you back and be like, "Hey, yo, Marcus, where you at, my G?" And
right?
have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
Nah,
Well,
go ahead. Go
so
ahead.
I was just going to start wrapping up because it has been a little over an hour and we
Yeah.
had planned on doing this for about an hour.
Yep.
But this has been fun. It's been nice just chit chatting with you and kind of talking with the Chad a bit. And I do have to say, I miss my Chad. And
Yeah. Miss you, Chad. You do
yeah,
fill a
for
big old
sure.
void. I miss like looking up in a little corner.
Right,
Yeah.
for sure. But, but you and I handled it well, I think.
Yeah.
We're not Aquarian Anarchy without Chad. That's just what it is.
No, we're just
We're Mark
anarchs.
and Nico.
Yeah. There's no anarchy. We're just anarchs. Just
Yeah, for
soul
sure.
people.
For
But yeah,
sure.
Chad, come back, baby, come back.
Yeah, he'll be back next week, and we've got a fire lineup coming too. We've got a lot of good guests coming. Jeff on the right is coming up. We've got Karen Ann Harlos is coming soon. We've also got Magnus is going to be on in the next couple weeks. It's going to be where our lineup's pretty wicked. What's funny is I was worried we weren't going to be able to get through a year of guests. Phew. I'm like,
Yeah, you guys are like, ha, here's another one. Wait,
right,
another one. Oh my gosh, another one. And that's like, wow,
right.
I like this. It's consistent. With consistency means growth. So it's like, my dad says, what is it? Well, he's got too many sayings. I forgot that one. At the end of the day, we keep growing. So, like flowers, but not at war. We're not at war. We're just out here to grow and build. Flowers are out here to grow and help build a ecosystem. So we're out here to build an ecosystem of like-minded individuals and people who just know what the hell life is supposed to be about, and it's not this shit we live in.
Sure. And that actually reminds me, I wish I had the quote handy, but it reminds me of the end of Candide by Voltaire, where the Voltaire is basically, in Candide is about, it's a story. It's a really good story if you ever get a chance to read it. But in Candide, there's two main characters. I can't remember their name right now, but one of them is a pessimist. The other one's optimist, and they're constantly at each other. And at the end, Voltaire says, and I believe it was Candide that said, I'm just going to tend my garden. And that's kind of the idea that we have here at Aquarian Anarchy, is that, you can think that the world's going to blow up next week. You can think that things are going to be hunky-dory and beautiful. We're here to do the work. We're here to put in the fucking work, to build bridges, to find the commonalities between people and help free the world. And with that, I want to say thank you to everybody who has come into the chat tonight. And again, we will be seeing Chad again here very soon, and he'll be back next week. And I definitely want you to encourage you, if you aren't subscribing, to subscribe, share, and do all that stuff. And hit us on the Patreon. Go check out the store. You can get shirts like this one. You can get backgrounds like Nicco and I have. You can get a lot of stuff there. But the most important thing, my friends, is for you to stay free.